Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the special business meeting of the District of Squamish for Tuesday, February 2nd. We are meeting on the traditional territory of the Squamish Nation. I read something really interesting the other day, a blog on the Squamish Lillooet Cultural Center's website about why we use the word traditional. And perhaps our acknowledgement should just say, welcome to the Squamish Nation territory. So that's interesting blog, if you haven't read it, about why we do land acknowledgements, written by the executive director there, who is not Indigenous, but is on her learning journey as the executive director. So if you haven't seen it, go and look at it. Okay, motion to adopt the agenda. Moved by Councillor French, seconded by Councillor Stoner. Any opposed? Motion carries. We need to pass Ministerial Order M192 that shows that the district is ensuring openness, transparency, accessibility, and accountability at this meeting by the following means. This meeting is being live streamed. A video of this meeting will be available on the district's website for viewing on an on-demand basis, and the meeting is open to the public for electronic participation via WebEx. And as public health orders change, we will change what we're doing here too, to allow for public access when we can. Motion to approve that. Moved by Councillor French, seconded by Councillor Herford. Any opposed? Motion carries. We are meeting electronically, so just a reminder to everybody who's on the line tonight, council members attending the meeting electronically are required to let me know when they connect or disconnect from the meeting, so that can be recorded in the minutes. Council members can identify themselves when they wish to speak by just raising their hand if they're on video, or saying chair if by audio only. With respect to a vote, council members are only required to state a nay vote. No statement is required if the member is in favor. Council members shall put their phone or computer on mute unless they are speaking. That goes for staff and the public. And council members will be involved in and participate in the meeting. And if you're having technical difficulties, council, please text our corporate officer. And if we're having challenges on our side, we will recess the meeting for up to 10 minutes to fix the issue and get everyone reconnected. So with that, we'll move on. Any notice of motion? Seeing none. We do have one proclamation that has been requested. And that is to proclaim the International Day of Zero Tolerance for Female Genital Mutilation on February 6th. That is moved by Councillor French, seconded by Councillor Pettengill. Any opposed? Motion carries. Any consideration of unscheduled public attendance? Nothing online. We have one timed item this evening, and this is Development Variance Permit number 159 for 38107 4th Avenue. And I will turn it over to Mr. Daly for the presentation.
Thank you, Mayor Elliott. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Brian Daly, Development and Subdivision Coordinator with Community Planning. I'm here tonight to present Development Variance Permit number 159, that's requesting two variances to permit the construction of a secondary suite above a garage at 38107 4th Avenue. The subject property is located at 38107 4th Avenue in downtown Squamish and is currently developed with a single unit dwelling. The property is zoned RS2 and the OCP land use designation is downtown commercial. Properties to the north are zoned CD2 and RM3. Other neighboring properties are zoned RS2. There is approximately 5 meters between the property line and the roadway, and approximately 3 meters between the property line and the edge of the sidewalk. Setbacks are taken from the property line. The variance requests would allow for the building to be constructed closer to the light blue lines surrounding the property on the screen. All works are proposed to occur on the subject property, which is highlighted in light blue. Variances to section 8.6 of the zoning bylaw are requested to allow for the construction of a 48 square meter secondary suite above a garage, a second story deck, and a storage shed. The proponent is requesting a reduction in the front yard setback from 7.62 meters 25 feet to 0.61 meters, 2 feet, and a reduction in the exterior side setback from 4.57 meters, 15 feet, to 0.61 meters, 2 feet. The subject property is a uniquely shaped lot located between a roundabout on Pemberton Avenue and the intersection of 4th Avenue and Winnipeg Street. Location of the existing building meets the required front and exterior side setbacks. Given the unique triangle shape of the lot and that the property has street frontage on all sides, it would not be possible to construct any additions to the existing building without a variance to the required setbacks. The proposal meets the 33% lot coverage requirement of the RS2 zone. The front yard reduction to 0.62 meters would be consistent with the allowable setback from a lane for an accessory dwelling unit and would provide convenient access to the garage from 4th Avenue. The exterior side setback reduction to 0.61 meters would accommodate the stairs and a portion of the suite balcony. The building face and the proposed deck addition would be set back 1.67 meters from the property line. The proposed deck addition would allow for covered outdoor space for the main residence. Staff are supportive of the variance requests as they would facilitate construction of a secondary suite on a lot that is constrained by setback requirements. It would allow for covered outdoor space for the primary residence and would provide for additional storage space. Providing a covered deck area would provide the primary residence with outdoor space that can be enjoyed in all weather conditions, and the additional storage space would increase the likelihood that the garage is used for parking. Legislative and district processes for engagement were followed for this application. A development sign was installed on the property and the project was posted to the online development showcase. Variance notification was delivered to adjacent properties within 100 meters. 5 comments have been received to date that were not supportive of the variance request. 1 letter included signatures from 22 residents of a neighboring apartment building that opposed the variance request. Staff recommend that council authorize the issuance of development variance permit number 159. That concludes my presentation. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Daly. I have a question from Councillor French.
Thank you. I went by the property today and I noticed that there is a shipping container on that property. I'm wondering if the proponent has indicated if that would be removed as part of this project or would it remain?
Through the mayor, the proponent has indicated that the shipping container would be removed. It is in the location of where the partially where the proposed addition would be located beneath that second-story deck. So yes, it would be removed. It's currently being used as temporary storage.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Stoner.
Yeah, I'm just curious if there was any consideration of adding the addition to the rear of the lot. So I realize that there's roadways on all 3 sides. However, that corner at 4th and Pemberton is quite high traffic and high visibility. I'm just curious if there was any consideration of putting it on the other end of the triangle.
Through the mayor, this was the proposal that was presented to staff and staff considered it reasonable given that it facilitated the addition of the second-story deck off of there's an existing very small balcony there, which provided access to the main residence. And also it allowed for the driveway to be shared with the future secondary suite and garage, which would limit providing an additional driveway on another frontage, which is generally not supported by the engineering department or the subdivision and development control bylaw.
Continue.
Thank you. And then just one other question about the movement of the shed, which I understand is a smaller footprint than would actually require a building permit. But will the new shed be within the allowable setbacks?
Yes, it would. Essentially, anything other than the main building would require a variance to the required setbacks on that property.
So the proposed new location of the shed also requires a variance?
Correct.
Other questions? Councillor Pangill?
Not a question just yet, but I'm wondering if we can get that first picture back up that had the sort of lines, property lines and sidewalk and those things. And then I just want to look at that a little more and yield my time for now. Thank you.
Are you referencing this slide or the site plan?
No, this one, I think. Thank you.
Okay, while Councillor Pettengill is contemplating that, are there any questions from other councillors? Councillor Anderson.
Is it possible for the district to introduce stipulations in the event of approval and construction for the staging of building supplies during the construction period?
I might ask my director to field that question if he wouldn't mind. I do not know the answer to that question.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi, Mr. Valancius, go ahead.
Perhaps I could ask Councillor Anderson to clarify what kind of conditions did you have in mind?
Given the proximity to so many high traffic streets and pedestrian zones as well, the construction period may introduce some issues with respect to how the building supplies are staged, safety considerations. So my question is there any opportunity to introduce stipulations as to the conduct of staging building supplies in the proximity of this lot?
For you, Mayor, I don't think that's necessary. So under our building bylaw, our building inspectors have the ability to make sure that a construction site does not pose risk to public that may be traveling adjacent to the site. So I think that if there are any safety issues that come up through the construction process, that could be easily addressed by the building inspectors who will be doing inspections and managing the building process.
Thank you, Mr. Valaniskas.
Councillor Pettengill.
Yeah, thank you. So just some clarification on this diagram. It says here, it talks about 3-meter setbacks between the property line and the sidewalk, or 3.24 meters, which is 9 feet, give or take. But then in the report, it talks about 2 feet between the sidewalk and I think parts of the building, or 2 feet. So I'm just wondering if you can explain the difference there, or what those are talking about.
Through the mayor, so the setback is taken from the property line, which is the light blue line on the screen here. So the stairs that would go up to the entrance of the suite would be 2 feet from this light blue line. Perhaps this is confusing. This was just trying to illustrate the amount of essentially space there was within the district road right away in relation to the property line. So the lines that are outside of the light blue line are showing district property. There's no works proposed on there. The setback is taken from the light blue line, so it would be 2 feet away from there within the kind of light blue area of the triangle, if that makes sense.
Okay, so just to confirm then, we're talking the sides of the buildings are going to be at least 11 feet from the edge of the sidewalk and not 2 feet from the edge of the sidewalk.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? There is an opportunity for the public to speak, so I'm just going to check with council if you have any more clarifying questions before I go to the public. Okay, seeing none. The proponent and members of the public do have the opportunity to be heard electronically via the telephone or from a computer with respect to the proposed variances to the District of Squamish zoning bylaw number 2200-2011, section 8.6. The purpose of the proposed variances to section 8.6, minimum setbacks for principal buildings, is to reduce the front setback from 7.62 meters to 0.61 meters, and to reduce the exterior side setback from 4.57 meters to 0.61 meters. Details to participate via telephone or the WebEx platform are displayed on the screen shortly. Our moderator's just running back. are displayed on the screen for those who have logged in from your computer or are watching the live stream of the meeting and are included on the district website. Just so folks know, in order to get on the speakers list, please raise your hand, so to speak, via telephone by dialing *3, or via WebEx by opening the participant panel and by clicking on the hand icon. Once you've done speaking, you would hit *3 or hit the hand icon again to put your hand down. Please note that there will be a moderator who will communicate with speakers. When it is your turn to speak, you will receive a voice prompt via telephone or a dialog box on the WebEx platform. Please commence your remarks by clearly stating your name and address or neighborhood. Please note that speakers will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address council. If you experience technical difficulties, please use the chat function to send the host a message or email your comments to hearing@squamish.ca. Emailed correspondence received during this hearing will be provided to council and will be uploaded to the agenda package online. So *3 if you're on the phone and you wish to speak, or go to the participant panel and click on the hand icon to raise your hand on the WebEx platform.
We have one. So we have a speaker from WebEx. We have Kayla Martin on the line. So Kayla, I'm not going to bore you with the details. The mayor just went over it. So as soon as I unmute you, you will have 5 minutes to speak. Please state your name and address for the record. So Kayla, I'm not going to bore you with the details. The mayor. Hi, Kayla.
Hi, my name is Kayla Martin. I live at 170 5th Street East in North Vancouver. I am the designer for this project, and tonight I'm speaking on behalf of the homeowners, James and Ellen. Hi. My name is Kayla Martin. They have informed me that there have been 4 letters of support submitted to the planning department.
Kayla,
so that is in support of.
Kayla,
yes.
if you could just turn off your live feed, because we're hearing an echo, that would be great.
Sure. Yep. Sorry. I'm not sure how to do that. Sorry.
If you could just turn off your.
Yeah, if you're streaming this meeting, if you could turn off the live stream because it lags.
Okay, the live stream. I'm sorry, I'm not sure how to turn off the live stream.
You could turn off the live stream because it lags.
Do you have 2 devices going right now with the meeting on it?
I do not know. Live stream. I'm sorry, I'm not sure how to turn off the live stream.
So how did you get into WebEx? Did you call or are you on your computer?
I am on a computer, yes.
And do you have a headset going?
I do not know.
Okay, so that's probably what it is. We're hearing ourselves through the.
Okay, you know what? I will just essentially turn the volume off on my computer, and that should address that, hopefully.
Okay, so that's probably what it is. We're hearing us through the.
Okay, is that an improvement?
Yeah, that's much better.
Thank you very much. Go ahead.
Sorry,
Yes, that's better. And if you can go ahead and you'll have 5 minutes.
okay, so my name is Kayla Martin. I live at 170 5th Street East in North Vancouver. I am the designer for this project, and I am speaking on behalf of James and Ellen, the homeowners, this evening. I just wanted to bring up the fact that the homeowners have received 4 letters of support for this project that I believe they've submitted to the planning department. I also wanted to address quickly, there were concerns in some of the comments that were submitted surrounding the traffic, views of traffic, and we have adhered to the 20-foot setback near the roundabout, allowing unobstructed traffic views throughout that area. I believe otherwise Brian did a great job addressing everything else, and I will leave it at that. The roundabout.
Thank you so much, Kayla.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other speakers?
So far, we have no other speakers. Please remember, if you would like to speak, just use the raise your hand in the participant panel. And we can let you speak if you are interested.
Okay, there's no more.
Oh, we had someone just pop up, sorry.
That's all right.
So we have Gloria McIver. So Gloria, when I unmute you, you will have 5 minutes to speak. Please state your name and address for the record, and your time will start now.
I'm Gloria McIver. I live in the building next door to the proposed suite at 1203 Pemberton. We are on the ground floor. I know that you clarified that it is not going to be only 2 feet from the sidewalk. But when you look at the drawings, I mean, how far to the fence line is that going? Because the side of their house is quite close already to the fence line. They just have that C-can there. So if the C-can's coming out and you're putting in a shed and then the addition's coming down that side, it looks pretty far over. And so how did I ever imagine that it was only going to be 2 feet off the sidewalk?
Continue with your submission, Gloria. The staff don't respond to questions while people are speaking.
Okay, so I just would like to make sure that I have clarification that it is not going to be 2 feet off the sidewalk. That's pretty much my concern. I mean, besides the fact, we also would like to know, is it going to be an Airbnb or is it going to be long-term rentals? I know there's been some changes in what the district's doing as far as Airbnb, but we just wanted to make sure on that. And otherwise, that's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And maybe what I'll do, Mr. Daly, is just for the public's benefit, is go back to the slide that shows the setbacks, and maybe you can just explain again. And maybe while he's doing that, Mr. Valniscus, you could speak to the short-term rental changes that we've made recently and why this won't be one of them.
Sounds good. So in terms of, should I go ahead now?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. Through you, Mayor. In terms of short-term rentals, the secondary suite or accessory dwelling unit would not qualify for a business license, so they would not be able to operate a short-term rental, and I don't think this would qualify under the our temporary use permit policy that has recently been approved by council. Simply because it's too far away in terms of timing of delivery. The project hasn't even started, so it wouldn't be possible in either case to make this a short-term rental, which means that this will have to be used for long-term rental.
Thank you for that clarification. And then, Mr. Daly, for everyone's benefit, if you could just go through again where the property line is for the property and where the setbacks are and how this will get built out if approved.
Yeah, sure. So I'm not sure, is my cursor visible to everyone?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so this light blue line here is the property line. And essentially, the building will be set back 2 feet from this line. So in this paved area here is roughly where the approximate location of the secondary suite. So this diagram is illustrating the district road right of way. Nothing is going in there. It is going to go in this area. And if I pull up the site plan, this dashed line along here was the light blue line that you were seeing on the previous slide.
Thank you. Normally, we don't respond directly to questions from the public during a hearing, but in support of good neighborly relations, I just wanted to make sure that it was really clear to everyone that has spoken this evening that that it's not 2 feet from the sidewalk, it's 2 feet from the property line. Are there any other comments from the public?
I believe we have a call-in user. I'm just going to double check with. So I'm just going to double check to make sure it's them. So Lena, I'm going to unmute your phone. If you could, yeah, if this is you, if you could clarify. So I'm going to unmute the phone. And again, you'll have 5 minutes to speak. If you could state your name and address for the record, and your time should start now. Hi, Lena, can you hear us?
My name is Ian.
Oh, hi, Ian. Did you want to speak to this?
I sure would, if you'd like me to.
Sure, yeah, if you're interested, so state your name and address for the record, and your time will start now.
Great. My name is Ian Brown. I own the property across the street at 38108 4th Avenue. So my front door looks straight towards James and Ellen's front door. And I apologize for being on the phone. I spent 45 minutes trying to get my technology right and failed. So I apologize for that. And I missed most of your discussion, but I'll just share with you my thoughts. I see this as a particularly unusual lot, very challenging restrictions for, for the owners to get good use out of the property. The normal setbacks seem to be, very restrictive for them. So I'm quite in support of their variance. Just a word or two about James and Ellen. They've owned their property exactly as long as we've owned ours here, about 6.5 years. And through that time, they've worked extremely hard to improve their property to the benefit of the whole community. I've really appreciated everything they've done, in support of the community and to contribute very positively to all of those around them. Everything I've seen is, everything else going on in the community sort of is all about increasing density and decreasing the natural habitat of the community. But I see what James and Ellen are doing is to increase the natural habitat. And I really appreciate that. And I think that the community will continue to appreciate that. We're becoming a bit of a concrete jungle, and their property is, I think, really serving as an oasis in the middle of, a bit of a desert that we're creating. So I support all that they are doing to do with the natural habitat and the pollinator corridor work that they're doing. I just see it as everything going on that property is a benefit to the community. So I appreciate it. The walking paths and the bench are examples of that. And I've spoken to them, and I would be prepared to help to contribute sort of signs, garden labels to explain what all the different sort of plants are and how they contribute to the community and that sort of thing. I think it'll serve the whole community really well in an educational way and in a sustainable way. So I love what they've done so far. I've loved the style that they've done it in. They are super good communicators to all the neighbors. If I need any information, they talk to everybody. So I just see their work through all the time that I've known them to be super positive, and I trust that this improvement to the property will, be supportive of them and therefore continue to be supportive to the community.
Thank you, Ian, and thanks. Oh, continue.
Nope,
Sorry, I thought you were done.
I'm done.
I appreciate your persistence in persevering to get connected. So thank you very much for that.
I believe we have one more call-in user. So call-in user, if you could state your name and address for the record, and as soon as I unmute you, you will have 5 minutes. And if you don't want to speak, I'm so sorry if I unmuted you. So I'm just going to preemptively apologize. Hi, can you hear us?
I can.
Hi, if you could state your name and address for the record, and you have 5 minutes starting now.
Perfect. My name's Lena. I live across the building in Eagle Grove in 204. I am one of the corner units there that look down on the property in question, not across from the property in question. So we have a different perspective of everything. Yeah, no, we have noticed that there's not been a lot of things happening really well on that property that could make it look even better. We looked down on a container. I've spent time walking past the property and talked to the owner, and he's had opportune times to let me know that there was probably something, of this magnitude going to happen on the property, and he never did. So I feel that it hasn't been quite represented from the beginning. But I also wrote a letter to the council and to staff. I have gone through several variance processes before, and I'm a little disturbed by the lack of community input from the owners in their sign and a bunch of other things I've written in a letter about how there are several ways to I've gone through several variances processes, and they're very, very succinct. They're very precise. And I didn't find this to be a precise community kind of give out the information with a sign hidden on their garage this is a big deal. This is a variance. They're trying to build something literally within, and it is 0.61 meters from the property line. So we're talking a very, very close proximity and a very large structure. Not just a building over a garage, but we're talking about an auxiliary residential property with a garage and a structure over top. So everyone in the building across the street, Eagle Grove, and you have all our 23 signatures along with some other people's as well. No, we don't approve the process. It's a very small property, and this is going to put another eyesore right in front of our view. The building itself could use a really good coat of paint, and maybe they could have appeased us a bit more and shown us a little bit more community spirit by giving us a better view from our Eagle View property, so that we could, maybe look at this and say, hey, listen, they followed the rules, they followed everything. They're not bad folks, but we don't feel that. It feels like there's been a little bit of misrepresentation along the way, especially with the sign hidden in the back behind in the garage, where it should be actually on posts in front of their building. And there's a lot of opposition to that.
Thank you, Lena.
So far, it looks like we have no other speakers.
So I'm just going to go back to council, see if there's any further questions. Councilor Herford.
Thank you. With the drawings, thank you for the clarification earlier on the setback from the sidewalk. The drawings sort of that doesn't necessarily didn't jump right out at me. So I thought we were dealing with something a little closer to the sidewalk. But given that we're giving up some setback from the district road right away, are there any negatives for future uses of that? Will we be hindering the future uses of that road allowance in any way with this proposal?
Through the mayor, the application was referred to the engineering department, and they did not have an issue with the proposal.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Pettengill. Oh, sorry, Councilor Herford, continue.
There was just, thank you, just the one point that the last caller brought up around notice and sign posting. I live on Fifth Avenue and walk past there fairly often, and the sign was posted on the garage. Would staff say that's where it was posted and how it was posted was consistent with policy?
Through the mayor, yes, it's consistent with the policy. It has to be posted in a visible location. Staff thought that it was quite visible from that location on the garage. They're also limited in where they could put the sign with posts. Obviously, that one corner of the lot is fully paved, so putting something there would be sort of challenging, especially given how windy it is. And then the other corner has a garden, and there is also that 20-foot by 20-foot site triangle setback. So staff thought it was a reasonable location to put the sign in there. It is consistent with the policy.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Pettengill.
Thank you. Councilor Herford got my one question. I guess just in terms of, was engineering sign off just in terms of existing projects we have in the plan, or did they sort of look at it, if we decide we want to put a separated bike lane down 4th in the future, there's still plenty of room to do that?
Through the mayor, the site plan was referred to the engineering department for comment, and they did not see an issue regarding sight lines or that the building would be set back from the property line. So they were not concerned about that, or they did not articulate any concerns when the project was referred to them.
Mr. Vilniuskas?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to add that it's the 3rd Avenue that's being designated as kind of our active transportation corridor. So this is one street away from that. I don't believe that's going to be an issue.
Did you have a follow-up, Councilor Pennington?
No, I'm okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Stoner?
Thank you. I just want to clarify a point that was in staff's presentation, that the lot coverage is not expected to exceed the 33%. And I just asked because the information on the development showcase says that there's increasing the lot coverage from 33 to 37%.
Through the mayor, that is an error. The original application that came in was requesting a lot coverage variance. The proposal included a much larger deck, and staff directed the proponents to minimum or not ask for a lot coverage variance because it was it wasn't consistent with OCP policies that supported infill density and things like that. But thought it was reasonable to allow for some shared or some covered open space for the principal dwelling, provided that they met the lot coverage requirements of the zone.
Thank you. Councilor Anderson?
Thank you. I frequent this intersection, the roundabout, quite often, at least once a week, and mostly in the evening, and I find it to be quite dark. And I've always noticed this coming through there. There hasn't been a lot of foot traffic in the evenings, but I think that we can expect that that to be an important consideration. My question to you is, I'm looking at the line of vision setback in the proposed variance site plan, and I'm wondering if you may be able to comment, Mr. Daly, on how or what kind of consideration was given to establishing that line of vision setback zone, where you what kind of, if there are any renderings produced, or where were you sort of standing, if you like, in examining the reasonable line of vision setback? If you may be able to offer any comment on that consideration.
So through the mayor, the line of vision setback is a requirement in the zoning bylaw in the general regulations section. I can't remember the exact section off the top of my head, but it requires a 20-foot by 20-foot setback from the corner of a lot on any corner lot. So hopefully that addresses your question.
Yes, thank you. So in other words, there weren't any additional, there wasn't additional analysis specific to the circumstances of that roundabout. This merely comes directly from the zoning bylaw.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Not seeing any more questions from the public or submissions from the public at this point. Not questions, sorry, submissions.
No, and just a reminder, if you have your hand raised, please unraise it. It just makes it a little bit more confusing for the moderator.
Okay.
But it looks as though there are no more submissions at this time. She's already spoke. Oh, Gloria, I'm going to check again to make sure you don't want to speak again. So I'm going to unmute you as your hand is raised. If you don't want to speak again, just let us know. And if you do, please state your name and address for the record again, and you have 5 minutes to speak.
Right. No, sorry. I'm good. That has clarified everything. Yeah, it looks good. And yes, they are good people. We have talked to them and they are nice, but yeah, everything's been clarified, so we're fine. And I will unraise my hand.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so much, Gloria.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Seeing no more submissions from public, not seeing any more hands from council. The staff recommendation is to grant the DVP. Council. Councilor French?
Yeah, I'll move the staff recommendation.
Thank you. Councilor Stoner, was that a second? Any comments? Go ahead, Councilor French.
Thank you. I certainly did have some concerns about lot coverage coming into this meeting and have since learned tonight that it stays within the 33% that's laid out in the RS2 zone. I find this to be a creative density project on a fishbowl property that doesn't abut any other properties, and I acknowledge the homeowner for bringing forward what I believe is a highly appropriate new long-term employee housing unit on a challenging lot that is ideal for this type of development. So I'll be supporting this.
Thank you, Councilor French. Councilor Stoner?
Thank you. I too will be supporting this motion. I do think that this property is obviously constrained by its unique features. I think the proposal is a unique way of supporting our strong policy towards gentle infill development, provides an alternative or different forms of housing in the downtown core. I did have some concerns about the setbacks, but I do think Mr. Daly did an excellent job of explaining the difference between the distance between the sidewalk and the property line, and then the property line, the setback. And so as I look at it and calculate now, we're just over 12 feet from the sidewalk to where the building would be when you account for both the district right away as well as the setback from the property line. I feel comfortable with that moving forward. So thank you, and I will be supporting the motion.
Thank you. Councilor Anderson and Herford.
I will not be supporting this this variance application. My reasons are not related to some of the comments we've received regarding tidiness issue. I don't think that this is something that we would address through this venue, but through other means if there's a genuine nuisance. Regarding signage, I hope that staff has taken into account the comments received and that we can take this into account for future. If necessary. My main concern is visibility. And with the traffic in this area, I predict is going to increase because there is opportunity across the road for substantial infill development with the older seniors low-rise complex in future. And it's been pointed out to me by a planner formerly working for the district that there are other opportunities in that precinct. So and if that happens, then we need to be fair to all property owners. And at that time, then this property owner can come forward and apply for a smaller infill as per the present application. But I'm really concerned that we're not seeing a rendering and a proper accounting of the visibility issue and taking into account future traffic. This is, after all, on that side of the street, will be a trail or popular route to trails. So this is where I'm concerned, a bit nervous, is in the visibility, and that's the sight lines of building out to the corner as is proposed. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Herford.
Thank you. I had concerns coming into this meeting around as my fellow councillors did, judged on the questions we were having around the setback and the lot coverage as presented in the drawings, and those have been addressed. I think this lot is an interestingly shaped lot and kind of a block unto itself, and is already cleared. We're not losing any green space. We're sort of repurposing some paved space in the front of I hope it all ties together and continues to be as architecturally interesting as the current building is, but I see no reason not to support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Pettengill.
Thank you. I will be supporting this. Echo what a lot of my colleagues have said. I think, I hope it is a lesson we'll learn in terms of what we require going forward in terms of packages from proponent. I think from the feedback I saw, that setback issue was the primary concern people had, and And I think that is mostly because it wasn't clear in the package that that I saw anyways. And I think I am more comfortable knowing that the setbacks from the sidewalk and the public areas are much larger than just the 2 feet that it initially seemed. And, you know, I think gentle infill is important, and it seems like we are still being compliant with our existing line of vision policy. So with that, I think this is supportable.
Thank you. I will call the question. Any opposed? Councillor Anderson opposes. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Daly. We are on to item 9A1, Delegated Power Reporting Policy. And
I found it.
Ms. Arthurs is going to speak to this.
Good evening, Council. Council received the officer and delegation bylaw for reading in December, and at that time, Council requested that a policy be brought forward that would indicate how transparency was going to be achieved and reporting would be occurring. So Ms. Boxrud, Mr. Buxton, and myself, we got together and we put together this policy that indicates which of the delegated authorities are going to be reported in which fashion. Over the late handout, we inadvertently distributed on Thursday the incorrect version. And the first bullet under procedures is what is different. It's the addition that Ms. Boxrud put in to cover off on some of the financial reporting processes that are going to take place. And if there's any questions for us.
I have Councillor Anderson and Councillor Pettingill.
Thank you. I wonder if I could just have a clarification. The last bullet item in the proposed policy refers to a biannual Community Planning Department project update to the Committee of the Whole. I believe at the current time we have a practice of quarterly updates, and these are the large comprehensive listing of current projects in process. So the proposal then is not to review the development permits and temporary use permits each quarter, not that is in every discussion of the Community Planning Department project update, but simply biannually. And I just wanted to note that there is the difference between a quarterly update and a biannual reporting of this when we're discussing the same information, that is the Community Planning Department project updates.
You're correct. So we're only going to bring forward the report on the delegated DPs and TUPs twice a year, and we will tag it along with one of the quarterly updates from planning, the planning department.
Thank you.
Councillor Pettingill.
Yeah, thank you. And I just want to be clear, as a general principle, the more we can delegate in terms of this sort of thing, the better. I'm very much in favor of that. But I'm still a bit concerned around the development variance permits and TUPs. And so what I'm wondering there is, like with those particular things, it's a case where we're being asked to consider something that is contrary to at least some of our policy. And so we can't normally just use our policy as a guideline when things are delegated to decide should it go or no go. And we've got a reporting mechanism now proposed to look at these after the fact. But what is the policy, or what's guiding our decisions when we're sort of, you know, balancing the various contradictory things? Like, because these you know, TUP is asking to do something that doesn't fit our existing policy. So like what guides those delegated decisions in DVPs and TUPs?
Mr. Buxton?
I can respond on the DVPs, the same as present. Those are not delegated. So those will still be reviewed by council. Those cannot be delegated, so they will not. And in terms of the TUPs, it's tough to develop policy because there's an incredible potential variety of issues that could arise. It really will come down to a discretionary call, looking at what we've got in the, perhaps we've got in the official community plan, whether or not there's any potential guidance from the zoning bylaw, but to try and develop a policy to guide the review of, it's akin to a temporary short-term rezoning application. To try and develop policy to anticipate what those might be is pretty much asking the impossible. We will have to use the policy that we've got and the discretion.
These are also limited by size, if I'm not mistaken.
They are less than, I want to say, 3,000 square feet, 300 meters. They're not significant applications. Yes, no less, no more than 3 years.
Mr. Villanueva, you're on my screen. Did Mr. Buxton cover that, or did you want to add anything?
Just really quickly, I just wanted to know that we would be following policies that we have in place with temporary use permits. So, you know, we would, it's just that a proposal might not meet the zoning bylaw, but as we find often, you know, zoning is sometimes out of step with OCP policies. And so if a proposal comes in and it's contrary to OCP policy, we wouldn't have the rationale to approve a temporary use permit.
Thank you. Any other questions? Not seeing any. So the recommendations of staff is that the delegated power reporting policy presented to council February 2nd, 2021 be approved. Is there a mover? That's moved by Councillor Herford. I'll second that. Any comments? Councillor Anderson and then Councillor Pettengill.
Yes, I'd just like to note that in the policy, the reporting will refer to project, procurement method, budget, bid prior year, project status, and capital project status. But what it will not refer to is whether the successful firm is local. That is, presumably they will have a local business license as per our recently adopted procurement policy. But it's been pointed out by local companies that there's a difference between having a business license and the municipality where you pay taxes as to how you define local. So I'll just note that the home base, if you like, of the successful bidder is not going to be reported on. That's fine. I do hope, however, that there will be a level playing field offered by the procurement policies of our neighboring municipalities. This is an issue that does come up vis-a-vis Resort Municipality of Whistler. So just note that the home base or tax-paying base of the bidding firms are not to be reported on.
Councillor Pettengill.
Yeah, thank you. Going into this, I wasn't sure I was going to be able to support it. I swear I read that it was DVPs and TUPs that were contained in this, and so that was making me uncomfortable. But I think that only leaves me with a little bit of apprehension around TUPs because I think the size there has increased, but I am willing to, you know, given the extra reporting now, to try this out and see how it goes. I think in terms of procurement and the DPs and our DPA guidelines and so on, we do have good guiding policy for all those other things that give me comfort on those other elements. So I will be supporting this.
Thank you. Councillor Stoner.
Thank you, through the chair. I will be supporting this. I think this is a very important piece of policy to go hand in hand with our later this evening's consideration of adoption of the officer and delegation bylaw and the land development procedures bylaw. I wouldn't be able to support adoption of those two pieces that are later on our agenda without having seen this. So I'd like to thank staff for bringing it forward. I think it helps with transparency both to council and to the public. for how those delegated authorities and powers are being used. And I look forward to our quarterly and biannual reports. And we can always tweak that reporting schedule if need be. If there's more information that we need, then we can work on that in an iterative process. But I think that this is a good start, and I think it helps us become more efficient as an organization with the key measures in place that we need for transparency and accountability. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stoner. Any other comments? I'll be supporting this policy. I think, as Councillor Stoner said, if we're increasing delegation, then we need to increase reporting or match it with the appropriate reporting and transparency measures for the community. And I'm satisfied that this policy helps us get there, while also creating more efficiency to see some things move forward without having to appear on council's agenda. So with that, I will call the question. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We have a change in our acting mayor appointments requested by Councillor Anderson because of a conflict that he has for April. Councillor Stoner has agreed to swap with him. So we're amending the appointments so that Councillor Stoner will be acting mayor for April and Councillor Anderson will pick up his second month in September. You want to move that, Councillor Anderson? Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Stoner. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, up next. Is everyone good? We don't need a recess yet? Okay. Item 10, bylaws. This is first three readings for District of Squamish Invasive Species Management Bylaw number 2786, 2020.
Hello.
Good evening, Ms. Ludon.
Can I go ahead?
Go ahead.
Awesome. I'll just share my screen. Okay, can you see the first slide there? It says invasive species pesticide bylaws.
We can.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay. So, hello, Mayor and Council. My name is Carly, and I'm an environmental coordinator with the Department of Engineering here at the District of Squamish. Today, staff will be bringing forth the invasive species management bylaw and the pesticide and herbicide use bylaw for 3 readings. Through this presentation, I'll provide a summary of the public engagement and resultant bylaw revisions, and I'll also discuss some options for landowner assistance programs. But first, a little bit of background. So in March 2017, staff were directed to develop a bylaw regulating invasive species. And then in June 2020, staff were directed to develop a bylaw governing pesticides and herbicides. Staff have reviewed invasive species and pesticide bylaws across 30 municipalities and drafted 2 bylaws, both of which contain prohibitions and clauses that are commonly used and or highly recommended by local governments and local government toolkits. The draft bylaws were presented to Committee of the Whole in November, so just a couple months ago. And at this meeting, staff gave, or council gave direction to staff to proceed with public engagement, and that engagement is now complete. As a recap, the invasive species management bylaw prohibits sowing, accumulation, and spread of invasive species, as well as the sale of invasive plants and animals, and treatment and disposal of invasive species that do not conform to best management practices as described in the bylaw. And under the proposed bylaw, the district may deliver a notice informing property owners and occupiers of the presence of an invasive species and recommend steps to treat those species, as well as a reasonable timeline in which they are to comply. So the notice is meant to be educational with an intent of soliciting voluntary compliance. However, should the owner or occupier not comply, the district may issue a fine of up to $50,000 or may affect compliance by performing the works, invoicing the owner or occupier of the costs incurred, and if that remains unpaid, attaching that invoice to the property taxes at the end of the year. As for a recap on the pesticide bylaw, the district only has the authority to prohibit the application of pesticides to maintain outdoor trees, shrubs, flowers, other ornamental plants, and turf, or municipal or on municipal land and private lands used for residential purposes. So the wording of this prohibition not only tells us what is prohibited, but it also tells us a lot about what is not prohibited or what is outside of our jurisdiction. So, for example, the bylaw applies only to application of pesticides as opposed to their sale or transport. Also, the uses not listed, such as use in pools or for water purification or on hard surfaces, are not prohibited and outside of our jurisdiction. So notably, the bylaw also includes some exemptions. The bylaw does not apply to any pesticides that are listed as an allowed pesticide, or the application of pesticides to manage pests that transmit human disease or impact agriculture or forestry, the application of pesticides on residential areas of farms or to buildings or inside buildings, and the application on land used for agriculture, forestry, transportation, public utilities, or pipelines. So as for education and enforcement, the district will recommend that pesticide vendors post an informational notice at their sales display. The district will also provide education and information on their website, on our website. And as a last resort, the bylaw enables the district to issue a fine up to $50,000 for non-compliance. Through the following slides, I'll provide an overview on engagement activities, the public feedback, and some minor bylaw revisions that have occurred. So a joint engagement plan was implemented between November 2020 and January of this year. The engagement spanned multiple IAP2 spectrum levels. Staff continued to collaborate with the Sea to Sky Invasive Species Council through ongoing communication and bylaw review meeting. Professionals, including 48 local companies, were invited to engage at the involved level. They were emailed the draft bylaw and a short survey and were invited to attend an online workshop. And landowners and the general public were invited to engage at an inform and consult level. So the draft bylaws and associated information was posted on the district's webpage, along with an opportunity to complete a short survey. And social media and other online tools were used to invite the general public to a virtual open house. So a total of 20 people attended the engagement events, 75% of which were professionals, and 10 people completed the short survey, 75% of which were the general public. We received a great amount of positive feedback, especially as it related to how the bylaws better protect our natural environment. So some takeaways are as follows. For the invasive species bylaw, the district will consider site-specific challenges, focus on education, and solicit voluntary compliance before implementing enforcement options. When it comes to invasive animals, the focus is to be on early detection and rapid response to new invaders in order to maximize effectiveness. And some takeaways from the pesticide bylaw. So one key item that popped up is that community members hold varied opinions regarding pesticides. So some community members would like to see all pesticides and all uses banned, while others would like to see continued cosmetic pesticide use to maintain their cosmetic lawns and gardens. So banning all pesticides and uses is outside of our jurisdiction. Also, staff understand that some pesticide uses are essential and that not all uses are harmful to the environment and health. So as such, the bylaw is written to the maximum extent of the district's jurisdiction, which bans cosmetic uses of many but not all pesticides. So the district also looked at including an exemption application process for cosmetic use. But it was determined that this would undermine the intent of the bylaw as a whole. So instead, the focus will be on education, and staff will develop web-based resources to direct pesticide users to a list of allowed pesticides, training courses, and best management practices. Public feedback and internal referrals resulted in some minor bylaw revisions. So this one here is for both bylaws. The maximum fine under the Offense Act was increased from 10 to 50,000, and a minimum fine was included. This revision reflects recent changes in the community charter and is better aligned with the costs associated with this form of enforcement. It also supports the high level of importance that our community places on protecting the natural environment, as was highlighted through our engagement activities. In the invasive species bylaw, the phrase "or as accepted by the district's environmental staff" have been removed from the prohibition sections that speak to treatment and disposal of invasive species. A minor change. And then two minor revisions were made to the pesticide bylaw. So the term excluded pesticide was changed to allowed pesticide. This term refers to a list of pesticides such as mineral oil or insect repellent, which cannot be regulated by local governments. And several local governments have chosen to use the term allowed pesticides, mostly because it's less confusing to the general public. And lastly, two of the exemptions, specifically for the use of pesticides in pool and for water purification, were removed. As I just mentioned, these are outside of the district's jurisdiction. So to better communicate this to the public, educational materials will include a list of allowed pesticides and examples of allowed uses. But it's not necessary to have these called out as a specific exemption. In addition to the invasive and pesticides bylaws, staff are bringing forward two companion amendment bylaws. These include amendment to the municipal ticket information bylaw and the notice enforcement bylaw. Also notable, when the invasive and pesticides bylaw were presented to committee of the whole in November, council expressed interest in making it easy for landowners to manage invasive species. In response, staff reviewed landowner assistance programs across 12 municipalities. A variety of options were included in the report to council. Of these, the 50-50 cost share program, free initial site inspections, and free native grass seeds were noted as the best options. Notably, the vast majority of these programs are funded by municipal tax dollars, and staff recommend implementing a landowner assistance program, but such a program would require additional ongoing budget and increased staff capacity. So implementing a program like this is beyond the scope of these bylaws, but it can be explored further should council direct staff to do so. This brings us to the end of our presentation. Staff recommends at this point that the District of Squamish give 3 readings to the invasive species management bylaw and the pesticide and herbicide use bylaw and the municipal ticket information amendment bylaw, as well as the notice enforcement amendment bylaw, and that the district conduct a feasibility study of landowner assistance programs and include the associated budget requests for the 2022 budget year and each year thereafter in the 2022 to 2026 5-year financial plan. Any questions?
Thank you very much. Councilor Pango.
Just on the engagement, and this may be a very naive perspective, but I'm sort of wondering why professionals were involved and the general public was I can't remember if it was Inform, if that was the IAP2. But I guess, you know, again, as a naive person, I might look at that and say, well, professionals bring the economic perspective, the general public is bringing a public health perspective, and we have therefore placed economics, you know, put a higher value on that than health. And that may not be a valid conclusion, but I'm just sort of wanting to understand why we chose those different levels for the different groups. It did seem from the number of survey responses that the public was interested in being involved to some degree.
Through the chair. Yeah, I think that what you're indicating or what you're saying there is quite accurate. I also think that invasive species and pesticides are something that the professionals who work with them on an ongoing basis, be it landscapers or pest eradication companies, etc., they know a lot about. It's something that has a really high level of expertise and plant identification associated with it to really understand the true scope and magnitude of the impacts of these species and products. So we were really wanting to pull out of the community and those businesses, how are these substances being used, and how are these bylaws going to impact the use of them in our community. And I think we did get a lot of good kind of feedback from professionals as well as the general public. We also, from both groups, we got a lot of questions just about general questions about the bylaw, what it means, what it covers, sort of thing. So, yeah.
Nothing else, Councillor Pangil?
No, thank you.
Councillor Stoner?
Thank you, through the chair. Just a quick question about the fines and the levels of enforcement. I may ask this every time the municipal ticket information and the notice enforcement bylaw comes up, so it's not just this, but I'm just curious. So there's 3 different levels of fines, one under the Offense Act, one under the, which is a minimum of $5,000, one under the municipal ticket information bylaw, which is up to $1,000, and then the Squamish notice and enforcement bylaw, which is about $500. I'm just curious why those are at different levels for the fines.
Through the chair. So this is a little outside my realm of expertise, but I understand that it's a different level of evidence that is required to prove that a prohibition has been breached at each of those levels. So you would require less evidence, and it's less of a process to do one of the low level fine options. Whereas if you're going to be in the $5,000 to $50,000 range, you're looking at it's going through court through a judge to make that decision. So very different levels of enforcement.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right. Oh, hold on. Councillor Stoner, were you going to move it? You were. Councillor Anderson, did you have a question? No, you're good.
For comments.
Great. Councillor Stoner is moving. We're going to have to do these one at a time. So you're moving the invasive species management bylaw as well as the feasibility study of landowner assistance program. Is there someone who would like to second that one? Councillor Herford seconds. Any comments on this particular bylaw? Councillor Stoner?
Yeah, I'll just briefly say thanks so much to staff for a fantastic report on this. It was clear, it was thorough. The engagement summary was fantastic. I thought it was easy to read and to get all the information I needed. With regards to the bylaws, I think that these are very important for our community to have. I'm happy that they have come forward at this time. And although I would like to see them go further, I recognize that they go as far as we can within our jurisdiction and what the province will allow us to do. So appreciate you finding that fine balance, Ms. Ludon, and look forward to seeing these implemented in the coming year and how we might be able to assist our community with coming along to landowner assistance programs in 2022.
Councillor Pettengill?
Yes, thank you. I will be supporting this, and I'll make some comments that I think apply to all of these in general. I too am very pleased with the engagement. I think it demonstrates how much our community is concerned about some of these substances, especially, but also the impacts of invasive species. It is frustrating that sometimes we can't go further in terms of regulating some of the chemicals, and I think that's on all of us to lobby with the province. to improve that. I just also want to mention in terms of the landowner assistance program, and my hope is that whatever we decide there will, allow us to evaluate the effectiveness, some sort of A/B type option. I don't want to put that into motion, but sort of in my wish list that we can tell how effective is assistance.
Any further comments on this bylaw? Councillor French?
Thank you. Want to acknowledge the good work that staff did on this file. Definitely some work went into this project, and I appreciate that. And also acknowledge the residents who came forward and brought feedback for staff to work with. There was some excellent participation at the community level. I'll be supporting this.
Thank you. Councillor Anderson, and then Councillor Herford.
Thank you. I just wish to note that under the exemptions in the bylaw, there is no distinction with respect to private managed forests and crown land forestry are dealt with in the same manner. And why I raise this is because use of herbicides on private managed forest lands, private lands within the District of Squamish has been a topic of interest about 2 decades ago, quite a fervent topic of interest. But I think that the current route is the appropriate one, and I trust that the private managed forest land managers have had some input and exposure to the proposed bylaw and are satisfied with it. Finally, I'll just cite from our Squamish Community Forest Management Plan, which states as follows: consistent with direction from Squamish Nation, Community Forest intends to avoid all use of pesticides and herbicides unless no other practical alternative is available for specific situations. Otherwise, I'm quite happy with the bylaw package. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Herford.
Thank you. Thank you to staff for taking us through this. It's a complex mix of jurisdictional issues, and I think that really highlights the need for the homeowner assistance. If someone has an issue and they'd like to deal with it correctly, really being able to take them through that, having the option to be sort of taken through that process, I think would be really helpful. But look forward to seeing how that work goes, and thank you for the work on this. Happy to support.
Thank you. I'll be supporting this bylaw. It's difficult to know that that we can't go further, I think, as my colleagues have said, but we are going to the maximum extent of our jurisdiction, and it helps us then educate the public about where our line ends and where the province begins, and where citizens need to start exerting their pressure towards the provincial government. And certainly we can help with that advocacy as well. I think that people have been asking for this bylaw for a while. I'm pleased to see it come forward. And I think the addition of the feasibility study for the landowner assistance programs provides that lens of equity on this, that not everyone will be able to afford potentially to take care of the invasive species on their property. So I think it's an important lens to bring across this piece of policy work. So thank you very much. I will call the question. Any opposed? Motion carries. Someone like to move the Squamish pesticide and herbicide use bylaw number 2787 2020 for first 3 readings. That's moved by Councillor Pettengill, seconded by Councillor French. Any comments on this? I have one, which is to thank you, Carleen. I understand this is your last presentation to council, and I am deeply indebted to you for getting these 2 bylaws through before you go, and well on their way to adoption. So thank you for your hard work on this.
Thank you.
I will call the question. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up, District of Squamish Municipal Ticket Information Bylaw. This is amendment bylaw for the invasive species management and pesticide and herbicide use, number 2801-2021, that it be given first 3 readings. Moved by Councillor Stoner, seconded by Councillor Pettengill. Any comments? Any opposed? Motion carries. And last but not least, District of Squamish Notice Enforcement Bylaw, Amendment Bylaw for the Invasive Species Management and Pesticide and Herbicide Use, number 2802, 2021, be given first 3 readings. Moved by Councillor French. I will second that. Any comments? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for your work and good luck to you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, moving on. I'm just going to keep going. We're on to adoption. First up, District of Squamish Officer and Delegation Bylaw number 2794, 2020 be adopted. I'll move that. Seconded by Councillor French. Any comments? I'll call the question. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up, District of Squamish Land Development Procedures Bylaw number, Amendment Bylaw number 2795, 2020 be adopted. Moved by Councillor French, seconded by Councillor Stoner. Comments? Any opposed? Motion carries. And finally, the District of Squamish, I shouldn't say finally like that, like, I meant finally in this list, not finally like it took too long. The District of Squamish Zoning Bylaw Amendment to the Business Park number 2767, 2020 be adopted. Moved by Councillor Stoner, seconded by Councillor French. Any comments? Councillor Pettengill.
Yeah, I haven't been able to support this, and I'm afraid I'm still not there yet. I think we, to my mind, haven't addressed the heavy impact industry elements are not sufficiently aligned, I think, with some of our target sectors and CCAP, Climate Action Plan objectives. And I guess I don't feel like we've quite hit the mark yet in terms of some of the broader adjustments. So I'm just not quite there yet.
Any comments? Call the question. Any opposed? Councillor Pettengill opposes. Motion carries. On to the consent agenda. If there's any matter in this agenda in which you are in conflict, that item needs to be pulled. Or any letters of correspondence that, or minutes that you would like pulled. Seeing none, motion to approve the consent agenda by Councillor Stoner, seconded by Councillor French. Any opposed? Motion carries. On item 13, correspondence action requested, we have a letter from E. Cosgrave regarding inquiring about Airbnbs, that this be referred to the community planning for a response. Moved by Councillor Stoner, seconded by me. Any opposed? Motion carries. Another about short-term rentals from M. King, and that this be referred to community planning as well for a response. Moved by Councillor French, seconded by Councillor Anderson. Any opposed? Motion carries. This is for action, and there is a sample of the letter in the agenda package. And this is in respect to some of the letters we've received from our colleagues throughout the province about intervening on BC Hydro rate changes for street lighting, for LED lights. And so that the mayor send a letter to UBCM on behalf of the district regarding BC Hydro 2020 street lighting rate application. Moved by Councillor Stoner, seconded by Councillor Pettengill. I'll look forward to sending this letter. Because the cost to us, if those rate changes go through, is $25,000 per year after changing to LEDs. So that's something that municipalities are having a hard time bearing for doing the right thing. So I'll call the question. Any opposed? Motion carries. Approval of minutes. There's recommendations from the Committee of Whole for January 26th that the district enter into a formal partnership with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities to support the implementation of the Jordan Municipal Sport Project. And that we give authorization to sign the MOU. Moved by Councillor Stoner, seconded by Councillor French. Any comments? Any opposed? Motion carries. A grant funding application for the Investing Canada Infrastructure Program related to the corridor trail lighting. Moved by Councillor Pettengill, seconded by Councillor Stoner. Any comments? Any opposed? Motion carried. Any business arising from the minutes? Seeing none, any council or staff, oh no, sorry, nothing for in-camera items to announce. No unscheduled public attendance. Anyone there for the open question period? No, there is not. Council or staff announcements? Anybody? It's quiet times during COVID. So, thanks, everyone. We did our closed meeting this afternoon, and so a motion to terminate. Moved by Councillor Stoner, seconded by Councillor Herford. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all very much. Thank you to the staff who joined us this evening, and thank you to the public who participated.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Good night.